you so much, everyone, for being here. It's incredible to have so much support as we launch the new name of our organization. We're grateful for you, whether you're here on live stream or here in the theater tonight, and we're especially grateful for those of you who didn't get the chance to eat food before you came in, but I promise there will be lots left over after I finish telling you what you're all here to find out about, which I think might be our new name. I don't know, though. A lot has changed since 1983 when AIDS Vancouver was founded. Many people in this room know this more deeply than I ever could. And yet, it is clear to me that for over 40 years, whether here at AIDS Vancouver, another organization, the too many informal networks, and dearly beloved individuals to name, our communities have so much to be proud of. I have not been here from the beginning. I came to the HIV movement while completing a practicum at an organization that wanted to address HIV, but not the gay men that I already knew and loved. That experience turned me into an advocate long before I knew I was queer myself. I came to Vancouver shortly after, choosing this place because of its reputation for being a leader in this work. I started packing condoms with some lovely people at Health Initiative for Men, some of whom are in the room today, and didn't really look back. I came here to learn, and that's exactly what happened during my time at the Gay Pause Sex Project, the Acute HIV Study, as the Theory Girl at CBRC, and my 5 years at Youth Co. And all of that was possible because of the generosity of people living with HIV. In particular, I have learned so much from youth who have been living with HIV since they were born, a group of long-term survivors we don't often talk about. And the incredible teams at Positive Living, the Afro-Canadian Positive Network, and Viva Women. I've learned about the magic of Oreo cookies and dancing and dry humor, and the need for meaningful access to long-acting treatment and treatment options, and the cost of HIV stigma compounded with racism, colonialism, transphobia, and homophobia. And now, as the newish, youngish, white settler, HIV negative, queer executive director at AIDS Vancouver, standing on the shoulders of so many others, I am the one to be sharing the future of AIDS Vancouver with you here tonight on behalf of our whole team. We'll take it. It's an immense responsibility, and you can ask my team. It's not one that I take lightly, and I will work hard to live up to that today and for years to come. This community has held so much loss and grief, lost so many people, and held so many moments of silence. Today's moment of silence is for the people who died long before we had a word for AIDS in Cameroon and surrounding areas as colonialism fueled the beginning of the epidemic. Those who died before medication or before we knew if medication would work in their bodies. It's also for those who are still dying now in 2024 of stigma and indifference in the wake of unregulated substances and a poisoned drug supply, rising transphobia and violence towards Indigenous peoples and Two-Spirit people, and people who arrive in Canada seeking refuge only to find racism, as well as those left seeing suicide as the last remaining option, whether sitting with grief, disconnected from culture, family, and community, or stuck with the weight of substance use and stigma. This moment of silence is also for the leaders and lovers and artists and mothers that we never got to meet because science or stigma or racism kept this from them. This moment of silence is also for the people living with HIV who are living long, healthy lives and dying of old age or something else they never thought possible, and for all of us who are choosing to live boldly and freely, well aware of the risk that can come with this. As we begin with a moment of silence, you can say or whisper or hold tight the names of those who are not with us today. Take a deep breath. Take a quiet moment. And I invite you to come back into the room. All of these people that we just held in this moment of silence helped us get to the opportunity we have had over the past year at AIDS Vancouver to think about who we are and who we will be into the future. We called it Vision Our Future, a process first stewarded by Sandy Laframboise. We started with a question: how can we support people living with HIV in 2023 and beyond? Over 100 people living with HIV, the Indigenous Committee at AIDS Vancouver, which is in the room today, and our incredible team of peer navigators took the time to answer that question and share their experiences, and a dedicated committee brought their own lived experience to help us make sense of it all. The answers to this question have become our new purpose, values, name, and look. Together, they lay the groundwork for how we will show up for people living with HIV and our broader communities for years to come. Through our consultations, we heard about the parts of AIDS Vancouver you wanted to stay the same and the parts of AIDS Vancouver that we need to change. Almost everyone wanted to see a new name, even though the reasons why varied greatly. We also heard about the people and groups who have not been welcomed, affirmed, and celebrated, and the Indigenous people, women, and Black people in all their diversity who have been missing from the organization, even as they have always been here. In these conversations, it was clear that making a change would be hard and would be felt by some as a loss. It was also clear that change is necessary and that we needed to find a way to stay HIV specific and show up for the generation that built AIDS Vancouver as they age, while also reflecting the realities of HIV treatment and prevention in 2024. Our new purpose has 5 concepts. Support. This has been the backbone of what AIDS Vancouver has done for years, whether in the grocery program, the financial assistance fund, the dedication of the peer navigators, case managers, or volunteers. This is one of the things that we do best and one of the things that we will carry into the future. Empower is a new opportunity for us at AIDS Vancouver to let communities lead within and beyond our organizations, encouraging the strengths we see every day in the individuals and communities we are privileged to support. There has never been just one community at AIDS Vancouver, and we are so glad to highlight this in our new purpose statement. Our communities and our team of staff and volunteers contain multitudes: Indigenous people, newcomers, long-term survivors and newly diagnosed people, HIV positive and HIV negative people who want to explore safer sex and harm reduction, sex workers, sober people, and people relying on substances to make it through every day, gender diverse people, trans and cis women, and so many others. Yes, we are remaining HIV specific, and it's okay if you want to cheer. We heard over and over again that we must. We will be as holistic as we can, going beyond just the virus itself. We will continue to include the important lessons of AIDS and AIDS activism as much as we can know them, and support people who have a past or present AIDS diagnosis as those for whom the AIDS days loom large. HIV stigma is perhaps the most consistent thing we heard about in our consultations. It's a barrier to connecting, and you don't need me to explain that to you. Whether connecting at AIDS Vancouver, or to friends, or community, or culture, or healthcare, stigma was often shared as the reason to change our name, which we will do, and I promise I'll get to it. And yet we heard loud and clear that someone has to do something about the stigma. And in this process, we decided we are the ones we've been waiting for. Every time, that's great. However you are part of our communities, our purpose makes it clear that it is our role to support and empower you and the communities around you to make sure the ways that HIV and HIV stigma impact your daily life do not make you smaller. Whether or not we are living with HIV, the virus and the stigma can make it harder to have the sex we want, build the families we choose, get the healthcare we need, and be our full selves without fear. And we in this room and on this live stream are here to change that. We have 4 values that are overlapping on purpose, and they put people living with HIV first. This is just as important in the work that we do with folks living with HIV as the work we do with HIV-negative people, because it is people living with HIV that founded the very concept of HIV prevention. Whether it's people living with HIV who fought hard to have HIV-negative babies and the doctors and healthcare providers that made that happen, the original edition of How to Have Sex in an Epidemic, or the Undetectable Equals Untransmissible campaign, all of that was brought to us by people living with HIV. In the same year AIDS Vancouver was founded, 11 men with AIDS created the Denver Principles, highlighting their rights to as full and satisfying sexual and emotional lives as anyone else, the right to live and die in dignity, and not to be scapegoated. The work to recognize these rights is still ongoing. Today, these principles are recognized in our value. We nurture meaningful involvement of people living with HIV. This is great. I love an audience. We are at our best when we invite ideas and feedback, respond to concerns as an opportunity to learn, and understand we are always both teachers and learners. We have summarized this value as we are accountable. I would love to chat more with you. I just can't quite hear you in this room. I'm so sorry. We'll chat after. We welcome our communities, more than one, and we know that one size does not fit all. Whether you pick up the phone, come through our door, or connected with us online, we want to ensure our welcome reflects what matters to you, your identity, culture, and shared experience. We welcome our communities. With compassion and understanding, we see each person's strengths and struggles side by side. We are responsive and affirming to each person's unique experiences, gender, and culture, and treat each person with dignity, aware of the ways trauma and past harms can impact life today. We honor every journey. This purpose and these values helped us make the very big decision about what our new name would be. While the current team, especially our peer navigators, speaks over a dozen languages, woo, peer navigators, yeah! I only speak one language. Despite this, some really lovely people have helped me try to welcome you in more than one language as we share our new name for the very first time. This one's for you, patients. Sia Lemuke Lalonge Ribbon Community. Bienvenido ao Ribbon Community. Amisap Ribbon Community. Welcome, all of you, to Ribbon Community. This new name is a big change or a small change, depending on what you want to see. Moving from AIDS to ribbon, a symbol, not a diagnosis. Moving from Vancouver to community, a group of us defined by so much more than geography. In short, we are ribbon. In long form, we are ribbon community. And in both cases, ribbon community is all of us. Using the concept ribbon is an intentional choice to pull the past, present, and future of the HIV movement together, connecting the many communities that make ribbon community possible. Our logo is the red ribbon in the form of an R rather than a V, as developed by the original group of artists called Visual AIDS. This group wanted to do something in the face of daily funerals and hospital visits and wondering who would get sick next. And it was them that created the red ribbon, made famous at the 1991 Tony Awards, and later made by the hundreds at Ribbon Bees. The concept of ribbon allows us to reference HIV and AIDS without saying them in order to offer some discretion in a world that still carries too much stigma, without losing what has brought us all together in the first place. Ribbon also means so many things. Ribbon skirts, bright paper packages tied with a bow, ribbons for first place, and dozens of other causes. The many possible meanings are one of the reasons Ribbon Community is the name we ultimately chose. Ribbon Community holds up a mirror to every person in this room, every person who wanted to be here and couldn't, every person who passed before today, and every person living with HIV to come. And it reflects back the power and possibility of communities working together. And this is who we are trying to be more of into the future as we embrace our new name. A space where communities can work together to address the specific ways, the shared ways, that HIV and stigma affect us. Whether as a client or community member, an accomplice or an ally, a person living with HIV, a volunteer or a staff member, there is space for more community leadership within Ribbon Community than ever before. Especially as the peer navigators and the Indigenous Committee continue to grow, so does our capacity for hearing your great ideas and putting them into action. We will continue. 3 cheers for the Indigenous Committee and our peer navigators. We will continue to create more of this in the months and years to come. We are so glad you are here to share in this milestone. Whether you like this new name or you don't, we are holding space for that and the many other feelings as we all adjust to this change. It is my greatest hope that each of you see at least some part of yourself reflected in our new name, purpose, values, and look, all of those things. Because today truly is meant as a celebration of all of you in this room. It's a celebration of what you have built and what you can build into the future. Ribbon Community is here to support and empower, and we want to hear your ideas for our communities, and we want to know exactly where you want us to be on your journey. Our April programming calendar is here on the screen and throughout the venue and shows off our new look thanks to the amazing team we worked with at Brightweb. Way more importantly, it shows off some of the ways we will be putting this all into action. We hope to see you soon, whether up the street at our option or at our office for our seasonal pipe ceremonies, our arts and crafts classes with Sabian, and other events hosted by the Indigenous Committee, at any of the clinics where our peer navigators work, or the peer support groups that happen around substance use and identities throughout our communities. As we embrace our new purpose and our values, and yes, our new name, we want to assure you that if you're looking for AIDS Vancouver, you're in the right place. We're here and doing our very best to put our new purpose, values, name, and look into action and live up to what the promise that they hold. It's our goal to ensure our most welcoming selves are here to honor each and every journey while we nurture meaningful involvement of people living with HIV and practice accountability as we learn and evolve alongside each of you. Our new name, purpose, and values are just the beginning. I invite you to keep us all accountable, and me in particular, as we support and empower our communities for as long as we're needed. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for building this, and welcome to Ribbon Community.